Welcome to this week's edition of The Scots in Us. I'm Camilla Hellman, President of the American Scottish Foundation, and I'm delighted to be with you as we celebrate the birthday of Robert Burns. And we're going to do that this week by taking a look back at two of our favourite pieces that we've done over the last few years as we've celebrated, and also introduce a new project that's underway. And so let's begin by hearing from Sophie Craig, and My Love is Like a Red, Red Rose. What a beautiful rendition of My Love is Like a Red, Red Rose from Sophie Craig. And now we're going to meet James Clements. He's a writer, producer. He's also an NYU professor. And right now he's in Scotland. He has a new project that he introduced at the Fringe last year called the Burns Project. A Burns supper is often in a very intimate way. And this project brings together with people round a large table, and James then does readings and background to what is Burns. It's had wonderful reviews, and right now it's making its way around various properties of the National Trust of Scotland who are behind this project. And shortly it will be coming to the United States. It will be here in March, and it will be on in New York, Washington, D.C., and Chicago, one night each. Really looking forward to that. And so let's hear from James now as he gives us a taste of the Burns Project.
Poets are such outre beings, so much the children of wayward fancy and capricious whim, that, I believe, the world generally allows them a larger latitude in the laws of propriety than your sober sons of judgment and prudence. My way is, I consider the poetic sentiment correspondent to my idea of the musical expression, then choose my theme, begin one stanza. When that is composed, which is generally the most difficult part of the business, I walk out, sit down now and then and look out for objects in nature around me that are in unison or harmony with the cogitations of my fancy and the workings of my bosom. I ought sooner to have answered your kind letter, but you know I am a man of many sins. R.B. I was born a very poor man's son. For the first 6 or 7 years of my life, my father was a gardener to a worthy gentleman in the neighbourhood of Ayr. Had he continued in that station, I must have marched off to be one of the little underlings about a farmhouse, but it was his dearest wish and prayer to have it in his power to keep his children under his own eye till they could discern between good and evil. And so, with the assistance of his generous maester, my father ventured on a small farm on his estate. Though it cost the schoolmaster some thrashings, I made an excellent English scholar, and by 10 or 11 years of age I was a critic in substantives, verbs and particles. In my infant and boyish days too, I owed much to an old woman who resided with the family, remarkable for her superstition. She had, I suppose, the largest collection in the country of songs and tales concerning devils, fairies, witches, warlocks, spunkies, kelpies, deadlights, cane trapes, wraiths, apparitions, giants, and dragons. This cultivated the latent seeds of poetry, but had so strong an effect on my imagination that to this very hour, in my nocturnal rambles, I often keep a sharp lookout in suspicious places. It sometimes takes an effort of philosophy to shake off these idle terrors. I formed several connections with other Junkers who possessed superior advantages. Youngling actors, busy in the rehearsal of parts in which they were soon to appear on the stage of life, while alas, I was destined to drudge behind the scenes. It's not commonly at this green stage that our young gentry have a just sense of the immense distance between them and their ragged playfellows. My father was advanced in life when he married. I was the eldest of 7 children, and he, worn out by early hardship, was unfit for labour. I was a dexterous ploughman for my age. My father struggled on till he reached the freedom on his lease, at which point he ventured on a larger farm about 10 miles further into the country. It's during the time we lived on this farm that my little story is most eventful. I was, at the beginning, perhaps the most awkward, ungainly boy in the parish. Nay, solitaire was less acquainted with the ways of the world. The cheerless gloom of a hermit, with the unceasing moil of a galley slave, brought me to my 16th year, a little period before which I first committed the sin of rhyme. You know our country custom of coupling a man and woman together in the labours of harvest. In my 15th autumn, my partner was a bewitching creature, a year younger than myself. My scarcity of English denies me the power of doing her justice in that language, but you know our Scottish idiom. She was a bonny, sweet, sonsy lass. In short, she, altogether unwittingly to herself, initiated me in that delicious passion. Indeed, I did not know myself why I liked so much to loiter behind her in the evenings when walking home from our labours, or why the tones of her voice made my heartstrings thrill like an alien harp, and most particularly why my pulse beat such a furious rattan when going over her little hand to pick out the cruel nettle stings and thistles. Amongst her other love-inspiring qualities, my girl sung sweetly, and it was to her favourite reel I first attempted gain an embodied vehicle in rhyme. My girl sung a song that was said to have been composed by a small country laird's son, upon one of his father's maids with whom he was in love. I did not see why I should not rhyme as well as he, for excepting that he could smear sheep and cast peats, he had nae more scholarcraft than mysel. Oh, once I loved a bonny lass, and I love her still, and while that virtue warms my breast, I love my handsome Nell. I now began to be known in the neighbourhood as a maker of rhyme. The first of my poetic offspring that saw the light was a burlesque lamentation on a quarrel between two reverend Calvinists, both dramatis personae in my holy fair. I had a notion myself the piece had some merit, but to avoid the worst, I gave a copy of it to a friend who was very fond of such things and told him I could not guess who was the author of it. But I thought it was pretty clever. With a certain description of the clergy as well as laity, it met with a roar of applause. Holy Willie's prayer next made its appearance, and alarmed the kirk session so much they held several meetings to look over their spiritual artillery, if haply any of it might be pointed against a profane rhymer. My girl, she's airy, she's buxom and gay. Her smile's as sweet as the blossoms in May. The touch of her lips, it ravishes quite. Her slender neck, her handsome waist, her hair well buckled, her stays well laced, her taper white leg with a net and a C, her B-E-D and her C-U. Well, it's natural for a young fellow to like the acquaintance of the females, and customary for him to keep them company when the occasion serves. Some one of them is more agreeable to him than the rest. There's something he knows not what pleases him, and he knows not how, in her company. Madam, you will laugh at it when I tell you that you and your piano together have played the deuce somehow about my heart. My breast has been widowed these many months, and I thought myself proof against your fascinating witchcraft. I've a kind of wayward wish to be alone with you 10 minutes by yourself. The what I'd say to you, heaven above knows, for I'm sure I know not. I've yet fixed with nothing in respects to the serious business of life. I am just as usual, a rhyming, a raking, a mason, a making, aimless, idle fellow. And thus with me began love and poetry. When chapman billies leave the street, and drouthy neighbours meet, as market days are wearing late, and folk begin to tack the gate, while we sit boozing at the nappy, getting foo and unco happy. We think nae on the lang Scots miles, the mossies, water slaps and stiles, that lie between us and our hame, where sits our sulking, sullen dame, gathering her brews like gathering storm, nursing her wrath to keep it warm.
I'm really excited to see the performance of the Burns Project in person. Thank you, James. That was great. And now we're going to hear from Noisemaker. Noisemaker are very close to the ASF and have worked with us over the last few years, and especially around a production that has just debuted in Baltimore for 6 weeks called Ceilidh, and is about to make its way to Scotland and be opening this September. And so now let's hear from Noisemaker with something like this.
Old Duncan the Stout was a man who loved to dance. He'd summon all his clan whene'er he found a chance. First he'd lead them in a toast and command they get in pairs. The dance we dance tonight will be danced for 100 years. So Duncan he taught Patrick, the caller after him, the steps to his dance so it could be taught again. And when Duncan died in battle, Patrick called the clan. Find yourselves a partner and let's celebrate our man. But as the caller takes a swig and drains his mug, seem lacking in detail. Holy Moses, my mind's gone blank. Was it 2 steps forward, then another back? It seems unfair of me to call it his. All I know is it was something, something, something like this. Centuries passed, and the clan of Duncan grew. His dance was handed down, each caller learning it anew. Then came Arabella Inches, a fearsome woman chief. Not a chink in her armour, except in her left ear she was deaf. And so the day came for the chief to learn the steps. Her predecessor spoke them in his final dying breaths. But as she leaned in to listen, she turned her head to hear, and the steps became entrusted to her only faulty ear. But as she turns to ask the chap to repeat what he said, the old boy gave a final cough, and with that, he was dead.
Holy Moses, my mind's gone blank. Was it 2 steps forward, then another back? It seems unfair of me to call it his. All I know is it was something, something, something like this.
So every time the time arrives for the dance to be passed on, legend says that every caller somehow hears it wrong. From Duncan to Patrick to Arabella in her stoop, to the chief who thought he'd write it down but dropped it in his soup, to the caller in Rosyth who failed to inform the caller in Kincaid as he told it in a storm. But still it does survive as callers muddle through, and now it's found its way to here for us to pass to you. See, traditions,
Whatever we choose to pass on, if it can't move with us, you'll soon find it's gone.
and yes, Duncan, the stout may see your steps as strange, but his dance is still here, cause it's been able to change. So when it's time to pass it on, don't worry on what to say. What we've forgotten will be gone, and the rest will somehow stay. Holy Moses, my mind's gone blank. Was it 2 steps forward, then another back? It seems unfair of us to call it his. All I know is it was something, something, something like this.
And so a thank you to Sophie Craig, to Noisemaker, and to James Clements, and to all of you, our very best wishes for a wonderful burn season.